What is up, and welcome to the Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silver's 2023 National College Football Preview Show. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. Be on the lookout Wednesday for the in-depth SEC preview and Friday for the Gamecock football preview. And subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can watch the most entertaining weekly college football show on the internet, Brett's Bets. Speaking of that, I'm joined by the star of Brett's Bets to break down the national picture, Brett Gosnell. Brett, what is going on?
How are we doing?
Doing fantastic. So let's get into it. All right. Number one, preseason AP Top 25, the Georgia Bulldogs. We will cover them more in depth in the SEC preview. 15-0 last year, destroyed TCU in the national championship game. How do you like their odds this year to be the first team to three-peat since Minnesota in the 30s?
They're the favorites to get it done, and they should be. So the defense is going to be elite again. The pass rush was like the only possible weakness you could find in that defense last year, but still just elite defense. The concern is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. They're losing Todd Monken, who, watch our more in-depth preview. But we have a lot of reason to believe that as good as that offense was last year, Todd Monken was responsible for a lot of that. A lot of that was play calling. And losing Stetson Bennett, who, say what you will about him, he was an excellent college quarterback. So Mike Bobo taking over at offensive coordinator. You see the decorations I have. I don't think too highly of him. So, yeah, I think the offense has a chance to take a step back, but the defense is still going to be there. They're still the most talented team. They're still the favorite to win it all.
Did you ever imagine Georgia football would look like this?
Not really. I mean, they've always thought of themselves as a national power, but most of our lifetimes they were just a couple steps ahead of us.
Maybe that's a good lesson, like believe and you can achieve.
Yeah. I honest to God, I think that's a huge part of it. And I think that's part of what holds us back is our fans are just kind of okay with being mediocre. I mean, we've got a shit ton of resources ourselves here. Our indoor practice facility is just as multi-million dollars of a nice one as Georgia's is. So,
yeah, but you do have to have those high expectations, and Georgia has them, and now look at them. But yep. I know that we talk about it, the in-depth SEC preview. They got a lot of off-the-field distractions as well. Like you said, the offense probably takes a step back. So we'll talk later at the end where we think this is all going to shake out as far as the college football playoff picture. But, I mean, you could do a lot worse than Georgia has done with all of their talent. So let's go ahead and move on to the number 2 team in the preseason top 25, the Michigan Wolverines. 13-1 last season, 9-0 in the Big Ten. Lost to TCU in the college football playoff semifinal. Jim Harbaugh is back, 9th year here, 13th overall. They bring back basically every major contributor from last season's team. How are you feeling about Michigan?
So Harbaugh's been there a while now. It took him a while, but he's finally got it rolling up there. They're going to be an elite team again. They're probably going to make it to the playoffs again, and they're probably going to get knocked out again. So as good as Harbaugh is in the regular season, I think the last 2 years have shown this. When he faces either a team with speed or like a well-coached, like a true college football coach, he's more of a pro-style guy, they don't stand a chance. 2 years ago, Georgia just ran all over. I had money on Michigan as an 8-point dog. I thought they were going to keep that game close, and Georgia, just the speed was way too much for them. And then last year they faced TCU, who they're no doubt more talented than, but Sonny Dykes, the epitome of a college football coach versus the pro style Jim Harbaugh. TCU handled them. The game got kind of close at the end, but TCU really dominated that game. So, yeah, that's what I think is going to happen again. The defense has been elite the last 2 years. I guess 2 years ago they had an amazing defense, lost a ton. And then last year, the defense was still great again. So I think the defense just from now on is going to be great. I think they've got it rolling up there on that side. The offensive side of the ball, like you said, the running backs both come back. Blake Corum, who was the Heisman, kind of a little bit of chatter before he got hurt last year, he's back. And J.J. McCarthy, who he's like 6th or 7th here in the Heisman contention. I think that's a little silly, but
it's crazy.
Yeah, he is good, and yeah, I think they're going to be great on both sides of the ball. I think they're going to roll through the Big Ten, but I'm going to have to see it to believe it when he starts facing some teams with speed.
Yeah, McCarthy, to me, he's not great. Like, he's good, not great. They don't really have a lot of talent at wide receiver for him to throw to anyways. Yeah. And we're talking relative to a team that's number 2 in the AP preseason top 25. So you would expect them to have more at wide receiver. They don't. Corum's back, 18 touchdowns on the ground last season. Probably is going to make more NIL money than NFL money as a running back anyways. Yeah. Donovan Edwards almost ran for 1,000 yards too. So they do have a lot there, but I don't see how you trust them. When it comes down to it, like I kind of feel like Harbaugh knows that too, because I feel like he's always kind of sniffing around like a pro job. Yeah, like he's trying to strike while the iron's hot. He knows the shit is gonna come crumbling down here eventually. Yeah. So I don't really trust them, but they certainly have the talent, and we'll see if we trust them more compared to other contenders in a bit here.
Yep.
Also, Harbaugh, it just came out not going to serve the suspension for the hamburgers, which was funny because he was negotiating the suspension, which I didn't know you could do. And then it didn't get approved.
Yeah. The NCAA, he was negotiating with NCAA, I guess. Okay. Yeah. If you stand up to the NCAA, nothing will happen to you. North Carolina showed us that with the fake classes.
Yep.
It's a joke.
Yeah. And I will say Michigan does have a pretty favorable schedule too. Like, they don't really play anybody. They go to Penn State, but they get Ohio State at home. And that's basically it until they make it to the playoff if they get there. So
yeah. I think they're the best team in the Big Ten, deserving of the number 2 ranking, but I still don't foresee them doing anything when the playoff starts.
No, me either. We talked about Michigan. Now their biggest rival, Ohio State, is the number 3 team. They were 11-2 last year, 8-1 in the Big Ten. Only loss was a blowout against Michigan. They still made the college football playoff, where they outplayed Georgia, but lost on a missed field goal as the clock struck midnight. And so now they have been calling off and on for head coach Ryan Day's head, which is weird because they're still really good. They do lose CJ Stroud, who was incredible, but they do bring back a lot, including I don't even have the adjectives to describe Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
But what do you think about their chances this year? Why could they win the national championship?
So I actually give them a better chance to win it than Michigan, even though I just said Michigan's the best team in the Big Ten. Michigan, given that they're more solidified in their quarterback and they're bringing a lot back, I feel like Michigan's the better team. But that whole thing where Michigan, once they face speed and talent, they just hit a wall. Ohio State, that does not happen.
Nope.
As we saw, they outplayed Georgia, the most talented team in the country, one of the best defenses ever, just went up and down the field on them with ease last year. So, yeah, whereas Michigan's the better team, I still feel like Ohio State probably has a better chance to win it all. So, yeah, like you said, C.J. Stroud, they've had good quarterbacks forever up there, so I'm sure the next guy's going to be good too. But C.J. Stroud's just irreplaceable. He was so damn good, so good. He would have been my first pick in the draft, no question about it. Marvin Harrison's back. He's amazing. They've had great receivers for years. Ngata and all them dudes, they've been loaded there as well. So the problem on offense is the offensive line loses a good bit, and they were responsible for giving Stroud a lot of time to throw the ball. So that's going to be tough. Looking at the defensive side of the ball, so they bring in – last year they brought in Jim Knowles, the Oklahoma State defensive coordinator, maybe the best D coordinator in the country at the time. And they had a good year defensively, but Michigan just destroyed them.
Yeah.
So that kind of popped the balloon there. So there is some question marks coming into this year. They obviously they're loaded to the gills with 5-star talent, and loaded up with cool names as well. So check out some of these names here. Defensive tackle Hero Canoe.
Beautiful.
Linebacker Steel Chambers.
Jesus. That sounds like an 80s action star.
Yeah. And safety Sonny Styles.
I love it. So just based on that, they probably should be ranked higher.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's second year for Knowles, so you would think there might be a little more understanding in the system. I know first team all Big Ten linebacker Tommy Eichenberg is coming back too.
Yep.
He's really good. You're right. It does feel like the first year in forever where they didn't have the best quarterback in the Big Ten heading into the season. Like you would assume that I think Kyle McCord is the leader in the clubhouse right now. You would assume he's going to be good just because they just get great quarterbacks. But heading into the year, we don't know. This is the first time it feels like forever. Good running backs and like Travion Henderson, if he's healthy, he's a Heisman candidate. Like this is incredible for how upset people were after losing to Michigan.
Yeah.
How they were really like a field goal away from being the favorite heading into the national championship game.
Yeah. Yeah. A clear favorite.
So I know they got a couple of tough games on the road against Notre Dame and Michigan again. But man, I just love, it doesn't feel like a Big Ten offense at all. And I love that.
Don't feel like a Big Ten team at all to me. I mean, they recruit at a SEC level and they have speed all over the place. So yeah, they're not really a fit in the Big Ten, honestly.
No. And we love them for that. Now, we're Gamecock fans. Would you be okay losing to Clemson every year if you still won national championships like Ohio State almost did last year?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it means that much. I know it does to them, too. That was the first time they'd lost to Michigan in like 10 years, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, the past 2 seasons – they just have not, they've forgotten how to beat them. But before that, it was like, that was Harbaugh's big thing is he couldn't beat Ohio State. Now he can.
Yeah. I don't know. I might take it one time. I might take like 3 Clemson losses in a row to win a national title. We just got through with 6 or 7 in a row there. So
yeah, we're doing it for free right now.
Yeah.
So, but speaking of SEC teams like Ohio State looks like and recruits like, number 4, Alabama, another team we covered more in depth in the SEC preview, 11-2 last year, 6-2 in the SEC, beat Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl in a down year for them. are they going to bounce back this season for Nick Saban, who has been photographed looking a lot like the Joker?
Yeah. So again, you use that term bounce back. That implies they fell off last year. You know, they lost 2 games by a combined 1 score. You know,
yes.
I mean, a double overtime game and a game at Tennessee where they should have been up 14 with 5 minutes left and celebrating. So, you know, I don't know. They lose so much from that team last year. Their best offensive player, obviously, and Bryce Young, and then Will Anderson on the defensive side of the ball. This is the most question marks heading into a season for a Bama team that I can remember. You know, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. They lose their D coordinator to Ole Miss. A lot of these questions are going to be answered because they're bringing in 9 5-star freshmen. And, you know, Saban will play the freshmen early. He's shown that. But, you know, like I say, quarterback questions, don't know who the running back's going to be. They're elite receivers they've had the last several years. I don't think you're going to see that this year. We didn't see it last year. So, yeah, I don't know. I think they continue to fall. I mean, if you consider last year a fall, I think they probably don't. I don't know. Getting to 10 wins is going to be tough this year, honestly, I think.
Yeah. So speaking of the fall of Alabama, they have tied the longest national championship drought in Nick Saban's tenure with 2 seasons without one. He is
hilarious.
Has won 6 of them there at Bama. And they've won at least 10 games every season since he's been there, except for his first year.
Yeah. So yeah, they might win 9 this year, and it'll be seen as like a precipitous drop off. But you know, they're still elite. I mean, you know, they're not dead yet.
No. I don't think so. Another SEC team. Funny how this happens every year.
Yeah.
Weird. Number 5, LSU, 10-4 last year, 6-2 in the SEC. Drilled Purdue 63-7 in the Citrus Bowl. Brian Kelly's second year there. This kind of feels like a very high ranking to them. Can they justify it throughout the course of the season?
Yeah, this feels a little bit too high. And it's kind of unfair in a way because Brian Kelly's year 1 last year, they make it to Atlanta. You know, so like things are going well there. But, you know, now you rank them number 5. If they fall short of that, it's going to be a disappointment when really they can have another great year and finish the year like top 15 or something. I still feel like that would be a very good year 2 for Brian Kelly. They do have a Heisman candidate at quarterback. He's going to be in his 2nd year under Brian Kelly. He'll probably take another step forward in Jaden Daniels. The defense will probably be good again. They're bringing in a lot of transfers to fill what holes they have. They'll be good, but top 5 feels tough to me.
And this one's tough too, because if you look at the record, I feel like you get a different feeling than if you watch them play last year.
That's the next place I was headed. So as good as they were last year, there were at least 3 games where those could have just absolutely flipped the other way. So, you know, they won 10 games last year, right?
Yeah.
So
easily been a 7-win team.
Right. Which would have been fine. Like 7 years or 7 wins in your first years in a new SEC regime. Like that's good.
That's incredible. But it feels like they've kind of set the bar a little too high heading into this one.
Yeah, so, I agree.
I don't know, but hopefully we're right, because I don't want Brian Kelly to win a national championship. So
Yeah, it's probably coming at some point, but not this year.
Thank God. If we got to hold it off as long as possible.
Yeah.
Let's go out of the SEC to what's left of the Pac-12, but will soon be a Big Ten team in Southern Cal. Number 6 preseason top 25, 11-3 last year, 8-1 in the Pac-12. Looked like they were headed for the college football playoff until they lost to Utah at the end there, and then they lost to Tulane in the Cotton Bowl because they could not stop teams from scoring. Lincoln Riley's second year there. Caleb Williams won the Heisman last year. He's back. Do you think the defense can be good enough this year for them to actually make the playoff and possibly win a national championship?
No. So last year, Lincoln comes in, the best offensive mind in the game, gets the best quarterback in the country, brings with him Dye, the transfer running back out of Oregon,
Yep.
and Jordan Addison, a 5-star receiver. So I think he showed you can take an offense from average to elite just quickly, and that's what they did. The defense, I feel like depth matters a lot more on defense. I don't think you can build that up. Obviously, you can't build that up in a year. He showed that, and maybe even 2 years. The defense was just horrible last year, just absolutely terrible. And they were just soft. I mean, just against lesser competition that they were more talented than, just gave up tons of points. The only thing they did, they were ninth in the nation in turnovers. And if you watched them at all, those turnovers come at the most opportune times. Like anytime a game was tied in the fourth quarter, the defense was getting a turnover. I mean, I don't know if that's a skill or that's just luck. It's probably just mostly luck, honestly. But that's kind of how that defense went. But, based on what they had last year and just Lincoln being only in his second year, I don't see that defense being built up enough yet for them to really compete for anything. But the offense, they do lose Dye, they do lose Addison. They bring in Marshawn Lloyd, our guy. We'll see how he does. But yeah, Caleb Williams is the Heisman favorite again. He's probably the best quarterback in the country. So they'll do well in the Pac-12, but no real national title aspirations.
Yeah, 4,500 yards passing last year, 42 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and 10 rushing touchdowns. Just incredible season. I think the bright side with the defense is that I don't think they can get any worse because they were so bad, especially at the end of the season. It looked like they were about to blow out Tulane in that bowl game and just completely died and gave up a couple of touchdowns at the end. So I think they'll take a step forward just because they can't take a step back, and they're bringing back 9 guys too. But I just don't trust them enough.
Maybe they can take a step back because maybe all those miracle fourth quarter turnovers don't happen this year.
That's a good point. So I don't know. You're asking a lot of Caleb Williams, I feel like, to carry that team with that defense. So I don't know about them. Southern Cal and the Big Ten will never make sense to me either. So.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating to see that.
Yeah. So,
and they're going to be at a horrible travel disadvantage every game they play.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I guess you're a West Coast team going east
is always the worst.
You never good.
Yeah. And Big Ten, they play all those noon games, like every damn game's at noon.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's going to be rough.
Yeah. So I don't know the thinking there outside of money. And sometimes that's all that matters, as we've seen in college football especially.
Yep.
So moving on, number 7 Penn State, 11-2 last year, 7-2 in the Big Ten, beat Utah in the Rose Bowl. James Franklin back for his 10th year there. I didn't know it'd been that long. One of the best defenses in the country. Can they compete for a playoff spot?
I don't think so. This feels like this is a team that like the national media wants to be good so bad. You know, they always want Miami and Texas to be good.
Yep. Miami, Texas, Notre Dame, Penn State feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Penn State's going to be good. Their Vegas win total is 9.5. That feels fine to me, but they're still clearly behind Michigan and Ohio State, like a clear step down. So, I mean, you look last year, Michigan destroyed them. They were a 13.5-point underdog to Ohio State. I think they covered by half a point, so they did keep it kind of close, but there's clearly a gulf between those two teams in Penn State. This year, the future lines, they've got them as a 10-point dog at Ohio State and only a 2.5-point underdog at home to Michigan. So Vegas does kind of buy that maybe that they're getting closer, but I still think they got to prove it before they warrant certainly any playoff discussion.
Yeah. I mean, defense, again, incredible. Two good running backs in Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. Quarterback, always a question for me at Penn State. And I feel like you need a great quarterback if you're going to compete for a playoff spot. They lose Sean Clifford, who was their all-time leading passer, but sucked.
Yep.
And so you could have an upgrade possibly, because it's not like Clifford set the bar high, but you're not going to have enough of an upgrade to where, we're going to go to the playoff, I don't think.
Probably not this year, but the quarterback that is going to get the job is Drew Aller, number one quarterback in the 2022 class. So the talent is there. I was reading about him. Real big kid, real big arm, can run if he needs to, but more of a passer. The 247, the recruiting website, their comp is Josh Allen, which that's a pretty damn good comp.
I tell you what.
They might improve it at that position. Yeah.
Yeah, I will have to see a Penn State quarterback be great to believe it. They've tried to sell us on all these Christian Hackenberg and Trace McSorley, all these guys.
Yeah.
I just cannot wrap my head around being a great quarterback, looking at Penn State play football and saying, that's what I want to go do.
Yeah. It feels like they always have kind of the classic Big Ten quarterback, like not very talented guy, but like good game manager and all that shit.
Yeah.
At least on paper, they've got the talent this time. We'll see how good he ends up being, but they're going in the direction of an uber talented quarterback this time. So that'll be exciting to see.
Kind of to the point of, I think of Penn State as just being like almost as generic as their uniforms are. Can you name 3 players who have played here in the past decade?
Did Tamba Ali play there? Didn't he play there?
That might be one. You know, I couldn't tell you because I can't. I can name one. I can name Saquon Barkley.
That's it. Yeah, that's a good one. Shit. Yeah, I don't know.
If one of them broke into your home right now wearing the world's most plain helmet, would you be able to identify him? Like, I can't even think of I'd have to go back to Courtney Brown, and I only know him because he's from South Carolina.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I would think it was a very big high school player.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I can't even identify this jersey. So, no, I'm kind of with you. They're still a tier below Michigan and Ohio State, their own conference.
Yeah.
Number 7 preseason. I mean, God bless James Franklin. He won at Vandy, so, you know.
He's the perfect Penn State coach, too. Just a generic-ass dude.
Yeah.
Hamba Ali did play at Penn State, by the way, so I was correct about that.
There we go. Yeah, James Franklin looks very easy to draw, and that was the qualification for being the Penn State head coach. So, moving on to a team that's a little bit harder to draw, I guess. Number 8, Florida State. Kind of surprising, 10-3 last year, 5-3 in the ACC. Beat Oklahoma in the Cheez-It Bowl. Mike Norvell is there, his 4th year. Big guy they bring back is quarterback Jordan Travis, who really took a huge step forward last year. What do you think about them? I mean, they're ranked ahead of Clemson preseason in the AP Top 25.
So, from my perspective, they were the thing that was interesting about them last year. They were like the darlings of Vegas. All the sharp bettors just bet the shit out of them every game. Anytime they lost, like all the betting podcasts would come back the next week and say, "Oh, the analytics said they really should have won that game." So it's like a combination of the super stat nerd analytic guys and the betting professionals just adored Florida State. So looking at it from our more lowly layman eyes here, the defense was top 20 last year, so the defense was good. But even then, they were overrated because the defense relied on not giving up explosive plays. Like you could pick your way down the field on them, but they didn't give up any explosive plays. And that's one of those super overrated analytic stats, you know, how much explosive plays you get and how many you give up. So, yeah, defense was good, but maybe not quite as good as the analytics would have you believe. Have a ton of talent. They hit the transfer portal extremely hard. Jared Verse, their defensive end, he returns, even though he likely could have been a first-round pick. He comes back. He's trying to be a top 5 pick, and he very well could do it. 17 tackles for loss, 9 sacks last year. So he's going to be good. Another defensive end that's probably going to be a depth piece for him that was one of our best players last year, Gilbert Edmond. You know, I'm curious to see how well he does down there. But, yeah, the defense is going to be very good, I would say. The offense, you mentioned Jordan Travis. He's the 4th favorite to win the Heisman. They had, like I said on defense, they had a ton of explosive plays last year, so that led the analytics people to just love them. But, yeah, even we can tell you Jordan Travis is great, and their receiving core is great. They're all like 6'5". They add Jaheim Bell, which that's who I'm really curious to see, see how probably we're going to see how great he is in a system that knows how to use him. But, you know, we'll see. So, yeah, I think the tail end of the top 10 is probably justified for them. Even though I do think they were probably overrated last year, I feel like, you know, a 9.5 win total is where Vegas has them, and what we've got them, the AP's got them, 7th or 8th. So I feel like that's right.
Yeah, and like you said, they're bringing back 9 guys on defense. Probably the best defense in the ACC, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
They bring in Keon Coleman from Michigan State at wide receiver. He was 3rd team All Big Ten there. You mentioned Bell. They bring back their leading receiver from last year, Johnny Wilson. They got good running backs too, and their offensive line has 206 career starts. So that's one of those ridiculous, like, COVID year
quirks. That's amazing.
I feel like, wow. Yeah, like they're super experienced there. So I think that, I mean, the ACC, it feels like it's more up for grabs this year, and this would be a good year to be good. So
yeah, I mean, it's a coin toss between them and Clemson, them being the slot favorite. I mean, that feels right to me.
Yeah. So we'll see. They open with LSU in Orlando, a home game for them that they won last year barely. They do have to go to Clemson this year, the end of September. They almost beat them at home last year, but Clemson has a way to make me unhappy. But I think you're right. I think this is a good spot. 8's a pretty good spot for them, honestly.
Yeah.
And speaking of Clemson, number 9, you mentioned it was a coin flip. I guess the AP decided that as well, and they came up tails. 11-3 last year, 8-0 in the ACC. Lost to Tennessee in the Orange Bowl. Got sent to the Orange Bowl because they lost to us, South Carolina. Dabo, 16th year here. One of the best defenses in the country by most metrics. Most analysts say that, up there with Georgia and Penn State. Offense was the problem last year. Do you think they get that figured out and make their return to where they feel they deserve to be?
So, yeah, looking at the offense, the biggest news is they bring in Garrett Riley to be the offensive coordinator. I would have loved to have had him. That was one of the names I was hoping we would get. But even so, there are big question marks with him. I mean, obviously the name, he's Lincoln Riley's brother. So that's a feather in the cap. But the question with him is, was it him or was it Sonny Dykes? He's been with Sonny Dykes at SMU and TCU. So, elite offense last year at TCU. But again, was it Sonny or was it Garrett? We'll maybe start to find that out this year. But, on paper, it seems like it was a good hire. Quarterback, Cade Klubnik is going to start, 5-star quarterback. He's going to be better than DJ. I don't think that's hard to do, but I think he's probably getting overhyped. I mean, he saw sometime last year and looked okay in a couple games, but not like world beating. And, Clemson's just over the moon about him, but I don't know how good he's going to be. He looks small. I don't know what his actual measurements are, but anytime I saw him play, he looked small, fragile. So, yeah.
And the Riley hire, I think, is important because Dabo's a guy who really needs his coordinators to be good. And we saw the defense take a step back with Brent Venables leaving to go to Oklahoma. So I'm wondering what the offense will do with Garrett Riley, because Dabo, not an X's and O's guy. He's a motivational guy, raising funds at New Spring probably guy. So I'm curious to see how that goes. They bring back Will Shipley on offense, who was developed in a lab at New Spring, actually, because they wanted a very impressive white skill position player. Almost 1,200 yards rushing last year, 15 touchdowns. And they have, believe it or not, a pretty favorable schedule. I know they always struggle with the tough cupcake schedule, but they're tough games this year. FSU, Notre Dame, North Carolina, all at home. They do have to come to Willie B and see if they can avenge last season's loss. And another question mark for me on offense is, for a while there, they were just kind of churning out wide receivers and wide receiver talent. That has not happened the past couple of seasons.
They're very weak at wide receiver. Like you said, their national winning years, they had the best receiving groups in the country. Yeah, just a huge drop off there. Like, their best receiver is Antonio Williams, the kid that fumbled to lose the game last year to us. Just a huge drop off at wide receiver. And even running back, you mentioned Shipley's good, but it used to be ETN and dudes like that. I mean, I think they've dropped off there as well. So
it kind of feels like
huge skill position, huge drop.
Yeah. So it kind of feels like Dabo is struggling to adjust to the NIL climate and the big money to lure away the coordinators and all that stuff. And I feel like he's probably just trying to hold on and be like a perennial double-digit win guy until Saban retires from Bama and he can go there.
Yeah. So, the new landscape is being weird for him because they don't take any transfers. They might have brought in like one or two guys from I think one guy was from Furman or something. So even then it's local guys. Their NIL game, that fan base is very cultish. They do advertise for NIL more than we do. And so, they'll give their last penny to the school. So I think their NIL budget is actually pretty good. But you mentioned hiring the big money coordinators. He tried once when Venables and the final OC left. He went completely in-house with Goodwin, and I don't even remember the offensive coordinator from last year's name. Streeter, right? Brandon Streeter.
Yeah, Brandon Streeter.
He tried to stay in-house. Clearly that didn't work on the offensive side of the ball, so he went out and got Garrett Riley. But, they want it to be a family thing up there, and I guess you got to say it has worked for them. But we are entering a new era here.
Yeah. Thank God.
But they've never had any trouble paying the players. Let's don't make any mistake there.
That is crazy that you bring that up, because I found myself wondering as I was looking through their past rosters how they got all these 5-stars from all over the country to come to little old Clemson and drive Ford F-150s or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
I'm glad you mentioned that. Looking at the defense, you mentioned they were very good last year, and they're still uber talented all over the defense. But the secondary was atrocious last year. We took big advantage of it when we played them. If you remember the Wake Forest game, Sam Hartman was just picking them apart.
Yep.
So, and they bring all those kids back. Like, they'll probably improve, but it is the same bodies out there. They lose Trenton Simpson, the linebacker. I think he was only like a 3rd-round pick, but he was very good. He had that interception returned against us, I'm pretty sure. So I think that'll be a big loss. I mean, they're still going to be probably first or second best defense in the conference, but even there, it's not, back when they were winning titles, it was their 6th D tackle was like better than your first D tackle. They were so deep and loaded on the defensive front. Now, Xavier Thomas, the F-150 is what brought that to mind. He's in his 6th year at Clemson and probably his 7th Ford F-150 because he keeps wrecking them. He's not done anything. I mean, so even kind of like the receiver, they've taken a step off on the defensive front as well, which used to be their calling card.
Very strange how that all seemed to coincide with being able to openly pay players.
Yeah.
Let's move on to number 10. A surprise to me, Washington.
Yeah.
11-2 last year, 7-2 in the Pac-12, beat Texas in the Alamo Bowl. Kalen DeBoer, whose name I have a hard time saying, is their coach. And they come back with Michael Penix, a Heisman candidate, because the motherfucker throws the hell out the ball.
Yeah.
4,600 yards passing last year, 2nd in the nation. They're going to score a lot of points. Are they going to play enough defense to win the Pac-12 and possibly make the playoff?
So when you told me that Washington was number 10, my first thought was, what in the hell? Like, that shocked the hell out of me. Like, they have Jake Locker or something. I couldn't even remember.
Back.
Yeah. But then as soon as I pulled him up, oh yeah. Yeah, it was Kalen DeBoer's first year last year. I've known about him for a while. He's one of the guys that the Gamecock message board people like myself were begging to be our offensive coordinator years ago. He's an elite offensive mind. He was the offensive coordinator at Indiana when they had those really good offenses. That where Penix was at Indiana.
Yep.
And then he went to Fresno for a year. I think he was only there a year, then immediately got this Washington job. So he's a fast riser, elite offensive mind, and yeah, they win 11 games last year in his first year. Him and Penix is just a lethal duo.
Yeah, they throw the ball. You know how much I love throwing the ball down the field. 2,000-yard receivers, Roma Dunze and Jalen McMillan. That's probably a top 5 receiving unit in the country. Their running backs are decent for a team that throws the ball so much. I know Cameron Davis last year had 13 touchdowns, splitting time. They bring in a kid from Arizona State and a kid from Mississippi State as well. Eight guys coming back on defense too. So for a team who I didn't really respect, they've got some pieces, and this seems like it could be a pretty well-deserved 10 ranking, even if it was surprising.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned the defense. They were 58 in scoring defense and 60th in yardage defense last year. Just dead middle of the road. But when the offense is that good, that's good. And then they'll probably get better this year, like you say, returning 8 of those kids. The defense just has to be able to hold on a little bit because the offense is going to be outstanding. And we know the schedule is not going to be that tough in the Pac-12. So, honestly, they're not really one of the top 4 teams in the country, but the playoffs doesn't seem totally out of the realm of possibility to me.
Yeah, they have to go to Southern Cal. So that's going to be tough because you look at Southern Cal's offense, and again, this defense, which bend but don't break, appears to be like the motto for these high octane offenses. But like you said, they could sneak in there just based on how things go. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Still 4 teams in the playoff. Who do you think ends up being the Final Four and then eventually winning it all?
So I think the top 2 are obvious. I think it's Georgia and Michigan. Both are pretty elite and both have very favorable schedules. So I think that's your top 2. I think Ohio State probably is the 3rd best team. They're certainly like a top 5 team, but it's kind of tough to pick, even though it did happen last year. It is kind of tough to pick 2 non-SEC teams to make it. So I don't know if you can say Ohio State. Bama, I don't feel like they're quite good enough to get there. It's tough. After really those top 2, it's tough. I don't think Florida State.
Because it would have to be probably like,
I'm going to say one of Southern Cal, Washington.
Yeah, I think we finally, in the final year of the Pac-12, and I wonder too if the committee will punish Southern Cal for leaving. I don't know.
No, that's interesting.
If they're like, hey, you're destroying the sanctity of college football and F-150s, so you can't go. But I do think a Pac-12 team gets in. I think I kind of like Washington more than Southern Cal.
Yeah, I mean, they can – you mentioned they go to Southern Cal, but they can win that game. They won on the road at Oregon last year. So they can win a big game on the road. Did they win at – I know they beat UCLA. Was that game at UCLA? That was another big one.
That's a good question. And I will say, too, Southern Cal will lose a big game, too.
Yeah.
So it's not like you go to Southern Cal and it's like this huge home field advantage. Like they drop ridiculous games. Let me look up. Yeah, they beat UCLA at UCLA last year.
So they won 2 huge games on the road. So maybe that's your 4th team. I don't know who the 3rd team is. I mean, maybe it is Ohio State.
Yeah, it would have to be. I would think it would be Ohio State. Who do you love out the ACC enough to do it would be the other question, because I think there's
Yeah, certainly not. I mean, I don't know. I'm Clemson, even if I thought it would be Clemson.
yeah.
Notre Dame isn't going to do. I mean, is there like a non?
Is there a sleeper team
Is there a Big 12 team? Where's Texas? I don't think Texas will do it, but it could be somebody like that.
or like a Oklahoma? Do you think they're going to be good under
Yeah.
Venables this year?
I don't know. I don't think.
I
I
don't
don't think Venables is a good head coach.
No, I think he's a frightening man, but I don't think he's a good head coach. So yeah, that third spot is what, because I mean maybe Utah, depending on the health of the quarterback. I know they won the Pac-12 last year, but it's probably going to be a team that comes out of nowhere and does it.
Yeah. Texas is 11, Tennessee's 12, Notre Dame's 13, Utah's 14. So it could be any of them. I'm looking at the whole top 25 here.
If it's close, it goes to Notre Dame. Like if they do anything,
we know that.
Yeah. They will be there.
Ohio State, so hopefully that'll knock them out. I don't know. Maybe it is the second Big Ten team. I don't know.
I mean, that's a good as guess as any, because this was tough, and I like that too. Because some parity is good, even though we truly don't want parity. We just want our teams to have a chance to win. When that's what we mean when we say parity. But I don't hate it. Who do you think ends up winning it? You think Georgia does the three-peat?
This feels like a year where you could get them. I mean, nobody's won it 3 times in a row since the damn Herbert Hoover administration. So that's tough. And like we said, there are some big questions on offense for Georgia. But who do you say beats them? Not Michigan. I don't think we talk about quarterback trouble. I mean, Ohio State's got it, so I don't know. You have to pick Georgia again.
Yeah, I think if the kid at Ohio State at quarterback looks decent, they're going to have the best shot, especially out of between Michigan and Ohio State. Michigan's not going to do it.
Yeah.
But you saw the performance Stroud had to have to keep them in the game. So can McCord do that? That would be nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, we know Michigan's not gonna handle them. I mean, if a Washington or a Southern Cal did sneak in, they're not going to do it either. Georgia's going to hang 60 on them no matter who the quarterback is. So I think it's got to be Georgia again.
Man, that would be incredible to pull that off with the way college football is now.
Yeah.
The portal and everything. Like, man.
Yeah.
And
they don't take a lot of transfers.
No.
This is all recruiting.
Must be nice. We'll get there one day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, since we figured that out, let's move on and talk Heisman. People used to care about this award. We're going to make them care again. Who do you think is going to win the Heisman this year? Caleb Williams looking to be the first repeat Heisman winner since, was it Archie Smith? Archie's?
Yeah. Tebow didn't win it twice, did he, or did he?
Good Lord. That's a very good question. See, I told y'all, people used to care about this award. Archie Griffin. I don't know why I said Archie Smith. I remember we thought it was going to be Manziel, but then he got to pretending to be from oil money. Nope. One Heisman Trophy for Tim Tebow.
Okay. So I'm looking at the odds here. They've got to. Here's why I quit caring about it personally. I think it's only quarterbacks are eligible for it, essentially.
Yep.
And I get that that's the most important position, but like you've got to have other people that have a chance to win it. Like when Charles Woodson won it as a defensive player, like there should be damn linebackers at least get nominated. I mean, to me, that would make it a lot more interesting. I guess, man, didn't Manti Te'o get nominated? That's like the last time.
Yeah. So
There's been plenty more good linebackers than Manti Te'o. I mean, Bama's had better linebackers than him.
So I thought Ndamukong Suh was going to win it that year that he had.
Yeah,
It was
that's
incredible.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But yeah, you're right. It's a quarterback award. That's why, like, one of my picks as a possibility is Sam Hartman for Notre Dame.
Yeah,
because we've already talked about it in terms of the poll and the playoff. They're dying to give it to a Notre Dame guy so much that they almost gave it to Manti Te'o.
Yeah,
and he wasn't that good. He was not that good.
No.
And then his fake girlfriend dies, and now he's at New York waiting to find out if he's won the Heisman. So you get a Notre Dame quarterback in there who does anything, like they're anywhere near the top 10 in the playoff, and he puts up anywhere close to the numbers he put up at Wake Forest. I think it's an easy choice for voters who love nostalgia and prestige.
Yeah. And another thing that I don't like about it is it has to be a player from a good team.
Yeah.
Like, why should that be a qualification to be the best player? It has nothing to do with it. Like, I mean, Caleb Williams won it last year. That's like as bad of a team as you're going to see a Heisman player come from, and they were 10-2.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and it's it's the award for the best quarterback on the best team is what it's turned into.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's
just starting quarterback. Yeah. And it's just so stupid.
This is how much it matters that you're a quarterback. I'm looking down here. Bo Nix is like in the top 10. No. Drake, I'll get to him in a minute. Carson Beck is like 12th. He's never even played a damn snap, but he is going to be the quarterback of the best team. So, like, obviously he's a candidate. You got to go all the way down to Marvin Harrison to get a non-quarterback, which at like 15th or something. That's insane.
And to me, he should probably be the number one. Like Harrison, if all things were equal, should probably be the top prospect because he's been so incredible. But I know Devontae Smith won it in 2020, and he was the first receiver to win it since 92.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess getting into like the actual our picks here, to me, Drake May is the best quarterback in the nation probably, but North Carolina's just not going to be good enough for him to actually win it. But I hope I'm wrong about that because we face him game one, but I do think he's the best quarterback in the country. So Caleb Williams obviously is the favorite. Jaden Daniels is number 2. But I don't even know that LSU is going to be good enough to produce a Heisman,
Exactly.
Quinn Ewers from Texas. What has he done yet?
No.
Jordan Travis. Cade Klubnik is 6th. That's weird. 5th. He's 5th. Cade Klubnik's in the top 5 Heisman odds. That's crazy.
So we're getting to the bottom of why nobody cares about the Heisman.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like Drake May, 4,300 yards, 38 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year as a redshirt freshman. Led the team in rushing with almost 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. But I do think like they're going to have to win the ACC title somehow for him to even get invited to New York.
Yeah. Penix is number 6. I mean, he's good enough, but I don't know that Washington is going to be good enough.
Yeah. I don't think they give it to a guy in an offense like that.
Maybe not. Sam Hartman, like you said, is a good shout. I don't know. But like I say, I don't know that LSU is going to be quite good enough, and he has proven to be good enough. There's reason to think he might, but he's going to have to throw the ball down the field a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that's the.
Maybe Caleb Williams does. Maybe Caleb Williams repeats. I don't know.
I think that Williams would have to be so good this year for them to vote him again, because they have this high imaginary standard versus is he the best player in the country is what it should be.
Yeah.
But he's going to have to exceed something to replicate what Archie Griffin did. I don't even know how Archie pulled that shit off. Daniels, like you're saying, great player, but I don't think he throws the ball down the field enough to where he's going to even accumulate the stats he would need to, even if LSU was good enough. So that's why I'm thinking Hartman from Oceanside Collegiate here in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I had no idea.
Netflix show QB1. So if he's healthy,
let him get to Wake Forest.
Lord, well, he's originally from North Carolina. He transferred down here to play. I think it's just his senior year, and then he went to Wake Forest. Now, if he can stay healthy, that's the big question mark there, because he's been getting hurt. So,
and that was if you watched Wake Forest play, that was such a weird offense they ran, and he ran it so perfectly. So I hate to use the pejorative term system quarterback, but he could just be a system quarterback, because that was a very unique offense.
Yeah. And when was the last time Notre Dame had a guy, it'd be like Brady Quinn, who made you think, oh, what a fantastic quarterback.
Yeah. And, they lose Tommy Rees to Alabama. They lose, their savant offensive coordinator. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's as good a choice as any, but it's a tough one there too.
Yeah. So we'll see, but make the Heisman matter again. Give it to the best player in the country, regardless of record, because it's so hard to affect the record if you're like a Marvin Harrison Jr. who's counting on some new kid to get him the ball, but he's going to put up numbers because he's a freak.
Yeah. I'm not even going to count because it'd take too long, but I'm scrolling way down, even below Spencer Rattler, to get to Quinshon Judkins. I mean, that dude should be a top 3 or 4, dude. I mean, if you let other people besides quarterbacks win it, and you didn't care how good the team was, Quinshon Judkins is like a top 5.
Yeah, he should be.
He's certainly on the stage.
In the 90s, he'd win it.
Yeah.
So, well, man, did we cover it all? It feels like we might have covered it all.
I think so.
Wow, we crushed it once again. Thank you for tuning in. Again, subscribe to the Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silver's YouTube page so you can see Brett's Bets, the most entertaining weekly college football show on the internet. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share if you care about anyone in your life, or maybe if you hate them and you don't like what we're doing, share it with the people you hate. I don't know. We will catch you soon. Remember, SEC preview Wednesday, Gamecock preview Friday. Have a nice week.